Beloved, today we step into one of the most pervasive illusions shaping your lived experience. The illusion that your full self is too much, too emotional, too intense, too honest, too powerful, too sensitive, too expensive, too direct, too ambitious, too deep, or too real. The illusion doesn't just shape your behavior, it shapes your entire presence. It is the illusion that convinces you to dim, shrink, soften, mute, censor, or contort your truth to protect others from the magnitude of who you are. But here's the truth: you have never been too much. You have only been more than some people have the capacity to receive. And because they could not hold you, you learn to hold yourself back. Today we undo that. Where the too much illusion begins. The illusion that you are too much begins in early environments that label your natural emotions as dramatic, frame your enthusiasm as overwhelming, treated your curiosity as disruptive, dismissed your intelligence as arrogance, shamed your expression as inappropriate, minimized your feelings as overreactions, interpreted your intention as defiance, viewed your truth-telling as disrespect, considered your sensitivity as weakness. In these environments, authenticity becomes conflict, truth becomes danger, visibility becomes vulnerability. You learn to exist at a volume that wouldn't disturb anyone, but that volume was far below your truth. The many shapes of shrinking. Let's bring this illusion onto the stage so that you can see how it plays out in your life. Shrinking looks like speaking softly when your truth wants to rise, withholding insight to avoid intimidating others, pretending to be unsure when you are clear, hiding your gifts so others don't feel insecure, downplaying your achievements, filtering your emotions, choosing silence to avoid being misunderstood, apologizing for your excitement, assuming your depth is a burden, second-guessing your intuition, abandoning opportunities to avoid outshining someone, and presenting a watered-down version of yourself. Shrinking becomes a survival skill, but it also becomes a cage. Your power triggered their insecurity, not your fault. This episode requires a level of honesty that may sting, but it is necessary for liberation. The illusion that you're too much was born from someone else's underdeveloped capacity. Their inability to regulate emotion, their discomfort with intensity, their fear of authenticity, their insecurity around intelligence or power, their need to control, their unhealed wounds, and their fragile sense of self. They couldn't hold you because they couldn't hold themselves. So they made you the problem. But your fullness was never the problem. Their limitation was. And your shrinking became the illusion. How the too much illusion shapes your life. This illusion influences your relationships. You attract people who prefer the edited version of you. Your career. You choose roles beneath your capacity or sabotage your own success so no one feels threatened. Your voice. You speak in diluted truth, half expressed, half centered, half alive. Your intuition. You override your knowing to keep peace or to avoid conflict. Your creativity. You create only what feels acceptable, not what feels true. Your self-image. You internalize others' discomfort as your flaw. Your destiny. You live a smaller life to maintain someone else's comfort zone. This illusion is not just about expression, it's about identity. The turning point. You cannot live a true life while shrinking to fit a false role. There comes a moment, and this is the moment, where the performative self collapses, where truth demands space, where your future self can no longer tolerate the absence of your present self. And that moment begins with one question: what would my life look like if I stopped shrinking? Who would you be? What would you say? What would you create? What would you allow? What would you stop tolerating? What would you claim? What relationships would survive? Which ones would dissolve? What kind of love would you finally receive? And what kind of success would you finally step into? Shrinking protects the past. Authenticity opens the future. Today's embodied practice, the reclaiming statement. Every time today you feel yourself shrinking in tone, in expression, in decision, in presence or truth, pause, breathe, place a hand on your chest and say, my fullness is not a threat. My truth is not too much. I am safe to be who I am. And then take one small action that aligns with your full self. This could be speaking more clearly, expressing your real opinion, allowing your enthusiasm, not apologizing for your existence, sharing your actual emotion, choosing what you want, not downplaying your brilliance. These small actions dismantle the illusion. Beloved, you have spent years, maybe decades, shrinking to fit spaces that were never meant to contain you. Not because your truth was too much, but because your environment was too small. But now you are stepping into an inner and outer world with room for your full range. You are not too much. You are simply returning to the magnitude you were born with. Episode 6 marks the moment your true presence returns to the stage. Welcome. If this episode felt like a remembering, if you recognize the ways you've shrunk, dimmed your voice, softened your truth, or disguised your power, then your liberation is calling you deeper. Inside the Vibrational Sanctuary, you'll receive the Fullness Activation Meditation, the Stop Shrinking Embodiment Sequence, the Sovereign Expression Audio Journey, a written guide to reclaiming your authentic presence, and a truth-led communication practice for powerful self-expression. Your fullness is not a risk. It is your destiny. The entry portal for the sanctuary will be in the show notes, where your true self is waiting for space.